Hi, hey, I'm getting out an actual wood block to use as my visual aid to explain some of the basics that are really going on as far as where things are placed, where things are situated with relation to where our eyes are looking at it, and how it will appear. So I encourage you to go find your own block. It doesn't have to be like this. Something that's wood block like, anything is fine. And the idea is that when something, this camera is overtaking the role of your eye level. I'm in charge of it right now. And so I'm trying to kind of place the camera so it's an iPhone. So anyways, it's a little bit tricky, but anyway, so that it's sort of right here and that you really can only see the top side. This indeed is a block with a bottom, a top, and four sides like this. And but to be clear, when you're looking at it straight on, really all you can see is a square. You cannot see any of this side. You can't see any of this side, or that, or that. Hopefully I'm going to have it already set up so that that remains true. I'll be moving it around, so. And the idea is that once something is oriented a little bit to the left of us, but still facing sort of straight on, that's a whole nother fun subject, that we're going to start seeing this right side. I'm going to call it the side. The right side, but still not, if it's just moving straight over from eye level, and it's staying at the same eye level, I'm not going to see the bottom or the top. And in a similar fashion, if it's over this way, I'll begin to see the left face. Make sure I sort of am trying to line this up accurately. Anyways, but I still won't see the bottom or the top. And by the time I start getting down here is when I'm going to start seeing this side, this top side, and up here, this side. But I'm still, when I'm going back and forth like this, I'm not going to see the right and left sides. And finally, and that's our last sort of orientation, and when it's up and to the left, then I will see both the bottom side and the right side. And as you may imagine, over here, I'm going to see the left side and the bottom side. I'll shift it up there. Down here, I'll be seeing those, the top and the left. And over here, I'll be seeing the top and the right. So it follows pretty consistently, and it's kind of, it's important to really understand this. And if I'm not changing my horizontal eye level and I'm just going side to side, this is when you'll start sensing of when you'll start seeing one edge, one side. And if I'm only shifting in a vertical fashion, then I will only start seeing the top side and the bottom side. And anywhere that's a combination of both is when I will see the corresponding sides for that. So that's a great thing that's confusing but critical to have in your brain. I'm going to pause for, actually no I'm not. I'm going to bust this up, but I am going to try to see if I can change the there you go. And oh wait a minute. Oh man. I had some wacky lighting going on, so shadows weren't too crazy. Isn't this fun? But I'm going to keep going here. So I did a couple. I've had to sort of do this over a couple times because of various and sundry things. But I believe this is kind of where I left off from the first one, where I'm imagining that I'm looking at that block, some sort of block like that. Once again, I'm not worried about exact specific blocks, but I am worried about understanding the principles of what's going on and making sure I can emulate that in my drawing. That's a short pencil. So this is my vertical imaginary line of sight and my horizontal. So as I said, this center one will be just the square, and I won't be able to see any of the sides if I'm looking straight at it. And once something starts shifting over this way, I will begin to see the left side of it and the edges that are going from forward to backward in space will line up with this. Man, I didn't get that one very close at all. I'm going to take a moment to do these because I don't think my angle guessing is quite awake this morning, as was evidenced by that first line. But so these things will be angling in like that. I'll sketch in that back edge of that right side. And over here I will sketch in the back edge of this left side. And when it's above, it's going to be a similar idea, but just a different sort of direction, different angle, different perspective. Those will be going to that. And that will appear something like that. Front edge, back edge, forward to rear. But I think it really helps to sort of make sure, like I've said probably painfully too many times, but to understand how you would expect something to appear based on the structure that you know it is. In this case, a block, and so much of the world is based on some kind of box or block form or structure. And that if it's still lined up with either my horizontal line of sight or my vertical line of sight, that it's going to end up, these sides are going to end up having some kind of this trapezoid kind of idea. Hopefully that's not a scary word, but that's what that shape is. And sometimes it'll be short side up, short side down, short side right, and short side left. And then let me sketch in, try to do, without belaboring too much, but the what the upper and lower and away from us are going to do. So the same thing, each one of these corners, the edges that are angling away from us will appear to be aiming towards this point of view, center, vanishing point. So I'm just sketching in some guidelines to know what angle these will follow. It's also important to understand, to make sure you're sort of thinking, okay, this is the front, and this is the front of my block, and I'm drawing these guides that are that are showing me how things will go back in space. Things at right angles, I should say. Let's do that one, this one, that one. So that's the basic idea of what those lines should be following. Some of my spacing is off, so things aren't exact, but that's okay. I'll fill those in just a second. But I do want to, I meant to mention, as I'm sketching in, you're seeing that these helper guides are pretty pronounced, right? And I wouldn't draw them like that normally. But I do want to point out that how important it is to draw out guidelines like this in order to make sure that one side really connects with and relates to the other side. The top relates to the bottom, and everything indeed kind of relates to everything. It's too easy to sort of get caught up in thinking, is this sort of lining up with this perfectly, and then forgetting about whether this lines up with this, or whether this lines up with this, or that lines up with you. Hopefully you get the point. And it's not a perfect square, but especially for these guys, I wanted to make sure that this side was relating to that side, and the top is relating to the bottom. Just sort of everything comes together that much more unified. So that was my initial guide that was just sort of helping, and now it's obviously a line that was only aiming me in the direction. I'm not wed to that at all. I think sometimes you sort of get caught up in thinking your guidelines are in charge, and you have to follow them regardless of how it looks. And you're going to find that often something doesn't look right, and you'll figure out that part of the reason why is that your guideline is off. I am going to do a little bit of erasing here of all these said guidelines and try to make a little bit more visual sense. To reiterate, I would not normally draw these guidelines in this dark. It's enough erasing. My battery is telling me again, you should probably finish up pretty soon, James. So let me just sort of clarify what's going on with all these. So down here, could use some serious love. And whereas if things are sort of in one, really only one side, we can see there's sort of these trapezoids, and then they sort of turn into some combination of parallelogram, something this sort of shape, still four-sided. If this stops, you'll know I pushed my battery too far. But let me see, if I keep just sort of erasing and clarifying, hopefully the whole thing will make a little bit more sense. And I am going to come back and talk about subtle angles. For the fronts of these blocks that will make it appear much more like this. I'm sort of overdoing, exaggerating a little bit here, but I'll show you what is going on there. Okay.